So, Poseidon, 2006. A film that's universally loved and hated by many in the cruise, boat, ocean, steamer forums across the world, be it for the stunning visuals of the ship itself, or the stunning capsize sequence, or the sloppy writing and cast directing. Well, as someone who watched this movie back in 2006 in the cinema, I can arguably say that as a 6-year-old, I did not care at all about the crappy writing or the flawed characters, but simply I just enjoyed the ship itself and the cool visuals, hence why I've been making content on it for so long. Although, recently I've started to notice something. While I was doing my research on the ship itself to, recreate my model, I keep coming across these pages talking about deleted scenes. Specifically that there aren't any. Now, I never noticed this, and so I took out my handy-dandy Blu-ray copy of the film, and I put it on. Come to find out, there's no deleted scenes. Now, this is weird because, well, in many of the trailers, the extended cuts of those, we can clearly see things that were removed from the movie. And I know personally about one scene in particular that was cut from the movie but was reposted on YouTube. So, what exactly was cut from the movie? Well, I have purchased a copy of the original script from 2005, and I'll explain the scenes that I noticed that were cut, what was changed just slightly, and see if we can maybe understand and maybe get an idea of if what we actually got as the final result was the best, or if it could have been helped by leaving some stuff in. So this was originally meant to pop up first. This is apparently sourced from the Environmental Literary Council, and apparently that was supposed to open the movie as like a warning for the wave that we would be soon seeing. I'm kind of glad they didn't keep this in, because it kind of is, it's silly. But then we cut to the actual opening shot, the glorious one we all remember when watching this in cinemas. Well, according to the script, that's not what it was supposed to start off as. And there's actually a scene from the extended cut of the trailer that we can see what was originally supposed to be shown. According to the script, the original opening scene was meant to have the entire ship pass over the camera before it finally goes up into what we originally see in the final version. Except for, instead of going up at the bow, we go up at the stern. And now this is a little weird, but it's just a little inconsistent. Anyway, so it progresses as normal. We meet Dylan doing his little jogging track, although in the script it says he passes quite a few people on the way, from honeymooners to waiters clearing tables, etc. We were meant to see the pool deck, a lot of stuff like that. The scene following Dylan's sunset watching was originally meant to be focused on Connor. And now, we all remember Connor, this kid. Well, we cut to him in the bridge speaking with Captain Bradford, yep, that was his name, and Chief Officer Reynolds, this guy. The scene itself is pretty unremarkable as a whole, but it also introduces someone who is actually kinda sad to be cut out of the whole final cut. If you recognize her, then congrats, we'll come back to her. The scene basically follows as Captain Bradford explains how the ship functions nowadays. No steering wheel, but instead a small joystick. It then has Connor pull a full Catherine Zeta-Jones from the '96 Titanic miniseries, and he takes control. He steers the ship 5 degrees to port. And so, long story short, it's this kid's fault why the ship's kind of awkwardly turned during the capsize sequence. Anyway, there's also a weird throwaway line at this point about the captain's power to marry people on board. We'll come back to that. So, this lady. She's the body we all remember after the capsize sequence. The kind of random person that gets a quick shot. She's also seen here. Who is she? So, fun fact, take a drink if you know. This was a named character who was completely removed from the final cut, minus her dead corpse. This was Maggie's friend Emily. Emily was Connor's nanny who was invited on the trip to watch Connor while Maggie was in the cabin doing business work. So the scene follows as Connor comes back to his and Maggie's cabin. He explains he was invited to the captain's table and Maggie reluctantly agrees to go, knowing full well that she has a lot of work that still needs to be done. Emily then speaks to Maggie about her joining them at dinner, and she reluctantly agrees. The addition of this character honestly explains the face Maggie gives after seeing her body. It's truly shocking and an absolute heartbreak. On rewatches, I spot her in the corner of the scene, and it's honestly sad to know her story now. It explains why Maggie was quickly calling out Connor's name afterwards, knowing he could also be in serious danger, or very much hurt. So something that was completely cut from the film as well was also the fact that we were meant to see how the wave actually began. So it would start as a ripple and grow with a loud roar building. Apparently we would also see the two fault lines clap together, causing an undersea quake, which is very similar to what actually happens in the 1972 film. Except for we don't actually get to see that one. We just know it happens, which is why I'm pretty sure it was cut. So next is this image. Those who enjoy Poseidon, and who have possibly just googled it for funsies, might actually recognize this image. So, turns out this was actually meant to be a shot in the final version, but was removed very early in the production. See, after the countdown and Nelson spots the wave, there was supposed to be a scene of fireworks going off around the ship, for New Year's. And one of the fireworks was meant to illuminate the top of the wave, making it easier for Nelson to spot. So this scene talks about Jen and Chris discussing the fact that Chris has already proposed to Jen and she has yet to tell her father. Chris states he's starting to question if this is what she wants, and she kisses him and makes a joke about getting banged on the rail of the private balcony in the disco. Yep. That actually was meant to be in there. Anyway, during the end of the capsize, there was meant to be a replica of a shot from the 1972 film where the guy's hanging from the ceiling or the floor and drops into what is a chandelier in the 90s 2 film. Well, in this film, he drops from the underside of a staircase and lands, I believe it's on a table. And in one of the extended cuts, we do actually get to see a snippet of this shot that was cut. And right after the capsize, we kind of remember this scene pretty famously. It's when all the lights go out and they shoot back on. So, in the extended trailers, you can actually pretty clearly see this, and this is what was written into the script originally. There's this shot of the stern, which shows the lights flickering out. Now, this is important because during the original draft of the film, this was supposed to follow the 1972 film a bit closer, focusing on the stern sinking dramatically versus the bow sinking dramatically. So now I'm going to quickly go through the changes that happened during the sinking scenes because not a lot was changed. What we got was very close to how it was actually written, only changing slight dialogue for the better more than anything else. So Connor is saved by jumping into Ramsey's arms versus using a tablecloth. Nelson seeing his friends earlier in the film all crushed by a steam table. Jen hanging from her shirt above an abyss of dead bodies in the disco area. Dolphins, yes, you heard me, dolphins in the middle of the Atlantic, messing with all the toys that have leaked out of the ship, and people from the ballroom are watching them. So during the galley sequence, Connor begins to explain the rogue wave as a sea monster, and the adults kind of just tell him to shut up. Valentine offering Elena's brother as a thank you because her brother is also gay. Yes, that is canon. Nelson meeting Elena and promising to get her to safety as an "I'm sorry for killing Valentine." The weird machine falling through the atrium floor actually being an AC chiller unit versus an engine, a generator, or any of the above. And fun fact, another one of those falls down. There should be actually two. Captain Bradford accidentally shooting out a window in the ballroom while trying to calm the passengers down, causing the window to shatter and implode the room. Nelson and Dylan annoy Elena outside the vent until she finally agrees to go in, if they both agree to shut up. Explaining that Elena didn't cut her head open and goes unconscious, instead hitting her head, causing her to call out in pain, letting the water into her lungs. This explains why they attempt CPR later in the film on her. Dylan and Ramsey fighting over Elena's death, and Dylan blaming himself for not just her death, but Valentine's death as well. Jen and Chris begin flirting about nobody being captain at the time, and Jen assuming the role to fake marry themselves in the hallway. That scene's actually kind of cute, and it's really adorable. Maggie and Connor talking about their father and his death, and a little bit of religion in there. The group planning to wrap propane tanks they found in a galley to make a makeshift bomb to throw into the thrusters to stop their spinning. Which, speaking of the thrusters, Nelson is actually knocked completely unconscious by the door hitting him in the face, as well as he is completely disfigured by it. By the time the group escapes the ship, it's almost at a 45-degree angle, according to the script. And the finale, the ship sinks stern first, and the group leaves via the stern thrusters versus going out the bow, which is very similar to the 1972 film where they exit via the stern. The final rescue attempt happens right at dawn versus right after the flare goes off at night. So these are the scenes that I just noticed at the top of my head were changed in the final version. Obviously there could easily be more that I just didn't notice, but these are the ones that I personally found very impactful. I think as a whole, it's kind of interesting to know that, like, what we got for Poseidon 2006 is just what we got for Poseidon 2006. There was nothing really different from the script. It was very similar. The only thing that was really changed was a bunch of character dialogue, which actually improved the characters. And so I think, as a whole, what we got was definitely the best result from the script, but there are some things that are very interesting to learn about, like the AC chiller falling through the atrium floor. That finally ends the controversy there, but it's just very interesting to see what they changed, and what they kept, and what was left out altogether. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm tempted to do the same thing with the Titanic 1997 film, see what they kept, what they removed, what could have been, because I do know a few things in that movie that were completely cut out altogether, character-wise. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. Tell me what your favorite scene in this movie was. Anyway, have a good one. Bye-bye.